Well, we'll go ahead and get started here today. Thank you all for joining. My name's Brian Peck. We do these webinars every month. And so if this is your first one, welcome. And if you've been to several of these, welcome back. We always look forward to doing these. And today is no exception. We have some fun stuff lined up for you here today. Before we do that, though, I just had a few announcements to make. First off, I wanted to recognize our technical team. A lot of you all probably didn't notice this, but over the last month or two, they have done an incredible amount of work in just our back-end infrastructure. Again, things that you don't see every day using Mazévo, but we hope that you all notice things run maybe a little bit faster. We notice it. I don't know how much you all do, but that's something that's always top of mind for us is just the performance of Mazévo. Anybody that's used Mazévo for a while, you've probably seen that dreaded spinning wheel that comes up every now and then, especially if you hit an internet hiccup or your web connection slow. Sometimes though, that's on our side and we do everything we can to keep things running fast. So our technical team did a great amount of work in getting everything upgraded for us. So kudos to them. Also wanted to welcome one of our newest customers on board, St. Vincent College out of Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if we have anybody on the call here today from St. Vincent, but welcome. One of our newer college campuses that just joined on board. Also wanted to announce we have a training session coming up for Mazévo Global Administrators. I will put the link in here in the chat if you haven't seen it. So far, we've been notifying people through Mazévo in there, but that's coming up on September 10th at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. It's a free training, and it's geared towards folks that are either new to the global administrator role in Mazévo or just need a refresher of some kind. Maybe your skills are getting a little rusty, whatever it is. It's going to be a great one. We did this for the first time back in June, and it was well received. So we plan to do it again here in a couple of weeks. And yeah, just more Mazévo knowledge for you if you're in need of that. So check that out. Again, I'll put the link in here in a few minutes in the chat so everybody can see it. So anyways, today's webinar, Dean is going to be our presenter. Dean Evans is our CEO of Mazévo. He also is over our product development team. And so they've been really hard at work over the last several months. I was looking, actually, it's been over a year since we did our last new feature roundup in one of these webinars. So it's been quite a while. So Dean had his work cut out for him as far as what he wanted to show here and what he didn't have time to show, things like that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that we're excited to show you all if you've kind of missed some of the updates that have come out over the last several months and things like that. We'll be going through those today. Now, we are going to be covering quite a bit in this webinar, so don't feel bad if you miss something and you're like, wait, what was that? Or, whatever. Absolutely put your questions in the chat. So as we're going through, you can just type your question in. We will be monitoring those, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. We'll also try to save a few minutes at the end if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question that way. We'll see how that goes, though. I think we're going to probably be using up most of our time here today. But again, don't feel bad if you don't get your question answered or something like that. You can always send a question into support. We are more than happy to help you out. We really do want you all to be able to take advantage of these new features. So anything we can do to help you with that, we will do it. So anyways, that's kind of how these things are going to go. Everybody's on mute right now with this. So yeah, we'll just kind of at this point turn it over to Dean and let him go ahead and show you what we've got here. So I'm going to stop sharing and welcome Dean. Here you go.
Here we go. Here we go. We've got a lot of stuff to go through. No particular order on this. So I'm going to start with some account setting information here. So for global administrators, to get to account settings, you come up here. Only global administrators can get to this. So a couple of things we've done in here. One, we cleaned it up. We put things on tabs just to make it easier to to find things. There's one thing we'd love it if you all did. If you would go in and fill in this support contact information here. So this is for us to get a hold of of your primary contact at your system, for your system. Um, so if you would put that in here and in the support notes, I'm sure some of you have seen these emails come through where your users can't figure out how to get logged in. And what we typically do is route that to a global administrator or a primary contact. But I know like Arizona's got a special email and we forward things there. So if there's an email address or that we can send these users to and point them to, that would be great. That would help us give your customers a little bit better support. So the way they get there is when they're on a login screen, and I'll just kind of go over here and show you what they're doing. Well, I can't. I'm already logged in. On a login screen, it says need help, and you can't believe how many people go click, I need help. So, but this would help us direct them in the right direction. The next thing we've done is there's a new email that goes out, um, and it's this request summary. So think of this as we got your order. So every time a requester completes a request, the system can send them, hey, we've got your request, and you can customize it right here, uh, right in here. So you can put header and footer around it, and you can change the event name up here. It just says request summary. And what goes out with that is, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. You can send an ICS file and stuff like that. It doesn't send a confirmation. You can send what we call a request summary. So there's some stuff there. There's a new email here that we just recently put in. So when a new user is created, it will send this email. Now mine's blank, so it's not going to send it, but you can add documents and policies and say, hey, welcome to Mazévo for our university. If you have any questions, here's who you should call, and here's all of our policies. So this goes out to a new user. It just fires off one time when their account's created. Um, the other thing we did, we put a very simple inquiry form in here. It's really easy to turn on. There's just a checkbox here to turn it on. If you went in here and said, hey, I want to use the inquiry form, click that, and it gives you a link, and you can come in here and you can fill this out. Now, let me show you what it does. It's not going to, it'll be active immediately, but nobody will be able to get to it. The idea is you're going to take this link and put it on your website to drive them here if you wanted to use this. Here's what it looks like. It's a very simple form. So you can control this text up here, but that's about it. We're just asking a minimal amount of information here. And then when they hit complete, it creates an inquiry record, not a request. So it's completely separate, and it shows up in your data glance under inquiries. The idea here is this is an external person that might want to use your space. So it's probably best to pick up the phone or email them and say, hey, you want to use our space. What are you looking for? Kind of a more sales interaction versus the same thing you would do with the requester. But anyway, that's what the form looks like right here. Now, we've had a lot of people say, hey, can't we add event questions to this? And we're kind of like, do you really want to take a brand new person trying to do business with you and inundate them with a bunch of questions? So we kind of lean towards no. It's not no forever, but right now it's no, you can't put them on here. So, but anyway, so that's kind of everything under account settings that we've touched there. The next thing I want to go to is something called account info. And so this will tell you how many rooms you've used as far as your license is concerned. And so Brian's just swimming in rooms here. He's got unlimited rooms. but he's only used 90, and it tells you the combos and the inactive. So if you're ever curious where you're at on your room count, you can go here and take a look at that. So a couple of other tools that we put in here, we kind of snuck some of these in, is under admin tools here. If you've ever had an organization out there, if you have it in there twice and they have events under both of the organizations, we have a merge utility. So you can take everything from one organization. So this is all of their events and contacts and move it to another one. So if you had duplicate orgs out there for some reason and they both had contacts and events, you can merge them together here. So that's kind of handy. The other thing we've done in settings, and you'll see this all over the place, is we have these cleanup utilities. So let me go into resources. I've got some here. The way you get to it, any of your items in settings you would go to and you say clean up. And it's going to show you, in this case, resources that you can delete. So I could just simply go check and delete, and it would get rid of those. Now, what it's telling us here is it's never been used on any bookings. And if it was, it's not going to let you delete it because you can't delete it if it's been used on a booking. So it shows you the first booking, the last booking, when it was created, and who created it. So that's just for resources. Well, why are you showing me those columns? Well, if you come over here and say show all resources, this will show you all of the resources you have in your system and show you how many times it's used. So it's kind of handy if you ever wanted to, it's kind of little statistics. So the 8-foot table, we use a bunch here at the Faber University, and it's all over the place. But this cleanup utility is everywhere. So if I go to rooms and I hit cleanup, I can see here, oh, I've got a couple that I've never used, but more importantly, you can get to that data there. So um, we're not going to let you delete something that shouldn't be deleted. So don't panic about that. So the next thing I want to show you is in the event book. I'm sure you've seen this. Positive you've seen this, but just in case, customer access time, we put that on there. Let me see. Back in April, we put this little blue bar here. So if your event has customer access time, we kind of scoot setup time out of the way and we squeeze access time in before the event. So we show that in blue. And before we just showed it lumped in with the setup time. So that's kind of a nice little thing there. And we continue to add more stuff to these pop-ups here. So I don't know whether everybody knows, you can click this and see the bookings, and you can actually click on that booking and open it. We show you the setups that are defined for the room. Recently, we just added pricing here. So this is going to show now again, I'm in here as an event planner. If I have privileges to work in the student center here, meaning I'm an event planner that can add or change events in the student center, I will see pricing. If I was a view only event planner or looking at a building that I'm not a full-fledged event planner, I wouldn't see pricing. So we kind of hide that a little bit, but all of your pricing methods would be right there. Now you can get to that pop-up in several places and it would show you the same thing. All of those tabs are the same. So, all right, moving right along, find events. Hopefully everybody loves find events. Gets a lot of It's probably one of the top three pages. The book, Find Events, and the Event Editor are probably our top three pages that get beat up quite a bit. And I saw Olivier on here. This comes to us from the University of Illinois Housing. They kind of pointed out, well, we used to have saved views and public views. And they pointed out, after all this time, well, you don't do that on published reports. You just give us a list of published reports. And they can be yours or they could be somebody else's that they published. And it's like, well, let's fix that. So we just lump everything under views here. So you can see Brian's got a whole bunch here. But if I just want to see my views that I've created, I simply check that and it filters it down to mine. The other thing we've done is put the little search for up here so you can quickly find. I know there's people out here with hundreds of views, so you could quickly search for anything right there. So, a couple other things that are kind of hard to show when I go here. If you showed courses here, we now show under contact is the instructor name. That's there. We've put a handy dandy refresh button here. Um, Another customer said, "Hey, I sit here on this find events. I filtered it, and it's on standard and advanced." And they filter it, and they go in and they work the list of events that's in front of them. And it was kind of painful to refresh this. So if you just hit refresh, it's going to take your times and filters and everything and just start shrinking your list if you're moving them into, say, a different status or something like that. Um, Under advanced, we've added a few things over here. We put in some new columns here, um, best to show you under resources, but you have the account code right here. So if I can start searching for columns, the account code's here. So this is the account code tied to a resource. Okay. So that's what that is. We've had a lot of people say, "Oh, we want revenue analytics, but we need to add a couple of columns." I heard that enough, and I'm like, well, why don't I just make find events a little bit fancier? So we've added the columns that are on revenue analytics are now available over here in advanced find events. And so the columns that are most important are right here: gross amount, discount, tax, service charge, and grand total, because that's what's on revenue analytics if you want to analyze your costs and your billing amounts. So those are now available as columns, but they're only available when you're looking at the resource because that's where all your pricing is under the resources. Okay. And there's a little checkbox here to include room charges. So you can turn that on or off as well. Um, There's a filter we put in here, again, trying to mimic what's under revenue analytics. That only shows you things with prices. Well, if you're not careful here, you're going to find all your notes and all sorts of stuff is going to come out. There's a filter that you'd want to use. Again, you'd come over here and down here with pricing only. You just check that. And now it's going to limit the resources to those that have pricing. So it kind of condenses your report a little bit. Okay. Um, so to mimic the revenue analytics, you'd add those columns in there. You'd say only show me pricing, and then you can do anything else you want here. Any of these other columns are available to you. So, and then jumping ahead, um, event questions are down here a little bit further, and we're going to talk about that. We This is an example. Here's the actual event question itself. Well, that gets kind of unwieldy. That actually becomes the column heading on the results when you say, search. So what we've done, and I'll get to this when we get to event questions, is you can shorten that up. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So I think that's all I've got for find events. So
Hey,
let's,
hey, Dean,
yeah.
there was a question that came in. Maybe you know this one off the top of your head. Question about the welcome email, going back to that one.
Uh-huh.
Uh, does that email go out automatically no matter how the account is created, whether it was created through single sign-on, manually, uh, whatever? Do you happen to know?
It's gonna go out either way.
Okay,
Say that because the person that asked for this, Loyola, uses single sign-on, and that goes out to them.
okay. So,
So it
so it
may
doesn't
only go
matter
back to you.
how.
It doesn't matter how the user gets created, but
Okay,
it's only for requesters. If you're an event planner, you're not going to get the new requester message. Hence
great.
the subtle name of the welcome message to new requester. So hopefully that answers the question. But yes, it
Okay,
should go out SSO or non-SSO.
great.
All right, let's continue. Speaking of requesters, I kind of did a little foreshadowing on this. There's that email here that will go out that I refer to it as "we got your order." It's basically you you've created a new request and we can send that out. Now, what it's important is if you want that email to go out, send us an email at support and say, I want the requester email to go out. The we got your order. We have to turn on a setting. Just takes a second and we can turn it on and then it'll start sending out one email for every new request that comes in. Okay. But by default, that's off. So just let us know on that. But you can configure it. Once we turn it on, you'd want to come in here and configure any additional messaging around that you'd want right there. So uh, let's see, looking here, headers and footers, I just showed you that. The other thing that you do as a requester, and I think everybody knows this, but if you come in here, I've got a couple events here. Requesters can come over here, and when they open an event, they can actually um, do their own request summary. It's not a confirmation. It looks like a confirmation, but we don't tell them it's all they see is pending or booked or canceled or denied. They don't see your internal statuses like they would on a confirmation. The other thing they can do right here is this little icon, they can download an ICS file for that event. So if it's multiple days, the ICS file will contain multiple components to add to their calendar. So they can get that. Um, we also send that ICS file out automatically when you send confirmations. The ICS file will go with it as well. So um, not to bash the requesters, but occasionally you'll find some that are going pretty fast, might be overlooking some things. One that would be kind of important would be the number of people. So we default this to one, and we've had some requesters just blow through that. Now it's going to do a capacity search for one, find me rooms that hold one person. If your minimum capacity was two, this search wouldn't return any results. So what we've done though is we give you the option to leave this default number of people blank. So it would come in and it would look, well, I don't have it turned on, but it would appear like that as they come in to add a new request, and it forces them to enter the number of people. They can't just blow by it and leave it one. So that's something we can turn on. It's another what we call a tenant setting, and we can turn that on for you. So if you want to change your behavior and force them to enter that, just let us know at support. Again, it just takes a second to turn that on. So requesters, let's see if I got anything else under requesters. Um, again, that self-serve ICS that I just showed you. The other thing, just want to point out, all of these requesting functions here, those are we've 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 done a whole lot of work to try to make those as accessible as we possibly can. So I know when a lot of people are in their buying process, they send us your VPAT, which is the accessibility document. We even took it a step further. We actually hired a third-party company to test these tools right here, critique us, beat us pretty hard uh, about our accessibility, and we put that in there. So we will continue to do that. We're going to do it again this fall. We did it last fall. We'll do it again this fall. Again, you have to keep working on accessibility. We just wanted to point that out that these are pretty clean as far as the accessibility people are concerned. Uh, that said, if you guys see something that doesn't feel accessible, let me know and we'll get it addressed. So. All right. Moving on kind of into the billing invoicing thing area. We created for the invoicing people out there. We've never had the ability to create a statement. So statements are here under organizations. And if I go to my basket weaver club, that's what this little icon is right here, this statement. If I just click on that, it's going to come up and say, well, what department do you want to use? What contact do you want to send? Now, this is the contact for the basket weavers. So we'll say Becky, and then it defaults to 1 year. It's going to look at invoices that are 1 year or older. It'll go back 1 year. Sorry, I didn't say that right. And it'll show you the outstanding balance. These are unpaid invoices will show up here. And then you hit send and it'll send this document to your customer, Becky. So it's just another new feature that we put in there. So enjoy. The other thing that we have an aging report finally. Um, so if you check this little box right here, and then say my terms are normally 30 days. And again, I put a transaction date in here of the whole year. If I hit search, it's going to show you all of your outstanding invoices, and then it puts them in a traditional old school accounting aging. And Brian's not doing a very good job on collections, but you can see that it kind of cascades in here. So you have an aging report. So you can export that to Excel if you wanted to. Um, Other fun things with invoicing. Let me go over here to organizations. My favorite club here, the basket weavers. I go to billing. We can change the terminology from chart or billing code to whatever you want it to be. The longest one I've seen, and this goes shout out to UT Austin, interdepartmental transfer code seems to be a really long name. So we kind of shortened it up on them, but that becomes a column heading on some of your report. So you don't want it to be too long. But in this case, I changed Brian's to Farber charge code. The other thing we did, and I just for the life of me can't understand that, but it's your accounting folks, it's not you guys. These billing codes, we had a limit of 50 characters and now it's 75 characters. So if you think of all the combinations and permutations of 75 characters, it's a lot. Um, but anyway, you can segment this any way you want to. It can be as long, it can be 75 characters, and it shows up, on confirmations and on invoices. So again, just note, I think Workday is the culprit there. Workday seems to have a very, very long charge code. So 75 characters, that's a change. Sticking with the invoicing themes, if we go to create invoices, you're probably wondering, I know you guys are, what is this here? We used to just have include zero balances. So now we've got two check boxes, so it must be twice as good. Let me show you. If I check them both and show you, I've got an example set up here. What we did before is the checkbox only worked on this column. It was like if the grand total of the invoice is zero, leave it out. I don't want to generate an invoice. Okay. But a lot of people wanted to only throw out things that were 100% discounted. So this particular invoice here that we would generate, it's got charges on it. So if I click on that, you'll see it's got 2 hours at 75, $150 discount, total amount of that. So the question is, do you want to generate an invoice for things that really don't have any charges? You might not. So it's your choice now. Now this one, it's $150 in charges. Well, how did it get to zero? The magic answer is deposits. So if you have deposits that apply to this invoice that you're about to create that actually make the balance zero, do you want to print an invoice? Again, you kind of didn't have a choice before, but now you do. So that's what those do. One's looking at the subtotal and one's looking at the grand total. So you have a little bit more control over that. And so that's the end. Oh, well, no, it's not the end of invoicing. I got my list here I'm looking at. Um, by the way, most of these have come from you folks. You guys have all asked, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Uh, those grand total things that came from requests from people. So keep those coming. Um, this next one, invoicing departments. Uh, hardly anybody would notice this change. You come in here. This used to be required, this email address. And so what would happen is when you generated an invoice, this email address became the reply to on the email that contained the invoice. So if they replied to it, it would always go to billing@faber.edu, the reply to. If you wanted to go to the person that sends the invoice, just erase that. And then this will, when you send it out, the reply to will be the person that actually sends the email to the customer. Okay. So there's a couple things in there on that. And now we're kind of getting in the weeds. Um, pricing, when you do half day, full day, um, you can have it do it on event time, which is what it was for years, but now you can do it on reserve time, which includes the setup and tear down. So if your half day, full day pricing needs to include that, you can do that as well. So I won't show that to you, but you just make note of that. Seems like folks in the Northeast or Northwest love to include setup and tear down in their pricing. So I'll just leave it at that. All right. Confirmations, event questions. We're getting into all sorts of good stuff coming up here. Confirmations. Everybody loves event questions. We're going to get into that here in a minute. But you can now include them on your confirmation. And the way you do that, you select your confirmation template, you come in here under options, and you say show event questions. And that will show all of your questions on the confirmation. So it's pretty easy to turn those on. Reports, now I'm going to jump around because we're all over the place, but I'm going to go to reports here. Analytics, if you ever ran analytics and you used hours here, so I'll run this. We now show you event hours and reserved hours. Funny that the people that asked for the half day, full day pricing on reserved hours pointed out that I can't see my reserved hours. And so we've added it here. So anytime you do analytics and include hours, you can now see both event hours and reserved hours. So, um, getting into the weeds again, another customer request is normally when you do a daily operations report, we sort this one by building, by it's going to be by building, by date, by reserve time. But if you want it by event time, just check that box. So that's a new option that we put on there. Okay. If you ever run a BEO, which is a form of a confirmation, we've now added the ability to put setup, tear down, and the customer access time on that BEO. And again, that's just here when you go in and you run a BEO, which is really right here. You're going to pick a BEO format. And you could have, again, it's under options under the confirmation template of whether you're going to show setup and tear down time on here. So it's just an option. So, okay. Um, published reports. We have a little checkbox here. This was not here before, but now you can say, just show me my published reports, and it'll show it to you. And it'll be whether they're your private ones or you've made them public. They're here. Okay. I can tell you a feature that's coming that I can't even show you today, and that's right here, thanks to the Illinois housing folks again. Um, Edit report, you'll be able to come in here and there'll be a save as button right in here. So if you come in here and change this filtering, you can do save as and create a different copy. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you wanted to create a report for building one and set your parameters and then create another report for building two, you'd have to go through the whole process again. Now you can create for the first building, come in here, edit it, change the building, save as, and you have another report. So it's a little quicker to start duplicating reports because a lot of times you might want to just change the filters on those things. So anyway, Illinois Housing to thank for that one. All right. For the people that use the daily log report right here, so this is how you file a daily log report. And this is how you print the log reports. So a log report, just to kind of refresh your memory if you don't use these, you could have your operations team fill out like a daily report. Did you have any problems or things like that? Another example that we hear is an incident report. So somebody falls and gets hurt, you have to call the ambulance. People may want you to fill out an incident report, some of your workers. So that's what this log report is. So you define a report, you ask the questions that you want to ask. So this is how a user would fill that out is they would incident report, just happen to have one. Well, the new feature is right here. So now as I fill out my report, I could put a picture from my phone, upload it to my incident report, and if this was a building manager report and it's like, did you see anything broken? Upload a picture. So that's how you can do that. Now, those images will also come out back here on your daily log report. So we see a lot of people that use the operations tools will also use those log reports. So, okay, a couple of things in academics. One, when you re-import the data, your academic term, your courses, um, it should go faster. We got a little smarter. Apparently, we're lazy in the beginning. Now we identify, well, what courses actually changed and only update those courses and create bookings for those. If you import it and then re-import that same term and a course is not changed, right? It's in the same room, time, instructor, we just leave the bookings that we had created alone before. So those goes a little bit faster. Um, the other thing I want to draw your attention, this is a new feature. It's very subtle, but if you're curious what this lock is, if you'd only get this if you're bringing in courses. Um, but you'll notice here my term is in the summer, 6/2 to 8/15. They're happy because they're out of summer school now. But if you click this button right here, are you sure you want to lock summer 2025? Yes. Just that quick. Nobody, even event planners, will be able to create bookings in this date range for your academic spaces. Now, why would you want to do that? So now's a perfect time. School's starting up. The registrar's moving things around like crazy, pulling their hair out. And they might want to lock the academic spaces so nobody sneaks in there and starts booking spaces, right? Events around their courses. So you could lock that, and now the registrar has kind of kept everybody out of the pool. Think of it as adult swim time, keeps them out of the pool. And when you're ready to let people come back in, event planners and requesters, and start reserving academic space, you just simply unlock it and people can come back and create events in academic spaces. So it's only locking academic spaces, which are right up here. Okay, it's not locking your event space that the registrar doesn't use. Um, so that's a handy dandy little button for him. Okay, event questions. What have we done in the last year to event questions? Well, there's a couple things. You can have a multi-select, so they can pick more than one answer. Okay, so do you agree to the terms? I'll just pick this one. It's simply right here, allow the user to select multiple answers. Now, you're not going to do this for a yes, no question, but if the answers that you put in here are you have option A, B, or C, pick two, well, you could say allow them to pick multiple answers. And then it presents them with all the answers and they can put a checkbox. So this is for the requesters. Okay. Um, I talked about that short description in find events. Well, here's where it is. So if you haven't set this, this is the column heading if you include the question on find events. If you come back in here and put a short description in, that will be the column heading when you do advanced find events and include this question in the results. So it kind of cleans up the find events a little bit. So um, couple of other things we did here for the trigger type of event type. Let me see if I've got one here, event type. So I've got a question here that's based on an event type of um, speaker. So if a user picks lecture speaker as the event type, we're going to ask him this question. Okay. Now, if you want to, this is the new thing right here. Do you want to limit that to a specific building or buildings? So you could come in here and pick one or more buildings or a room tag. So you can limit event type and building on that question. So the other one, let me see if I've got it here. Here it is right here. You can add a question that's triggered based on the user's security policy. And here's an example of one. Will students be attending? So my security policies, I'll click here and you can see my policies. I have 4 policies: faculty, staff, president, standard, student. If I want to ask a question of the faculty members only, will students be attending? I can limit this question to users in the faculty staff policy. Now you can pick more than one there. Um, but anyway, that's a new trigger type for event questions tied to their security. So, um, okay, more stuff in settings here. For those people that use approvals, we put a little creature comfort in here for you. It's this column right here. So the approvers. Um, so if you use a lot of those and you have a lot of approvers and you want to find, well, which ones are Joe tied to, you can start typing in Joe's name and it'll filter the approvals to the ones Joe's tied to. So if I typed in my name, those are the approvals that I'm on. I typed in Brian's name, there's the ones Brian's on. Okay. So it's just a quick little filter mechanism if you wondered why we put that on there. Okay, you get the user that calls up and says, "Hey, I'm tired of getting these emails." Well, a user, no matter what kind of user they are, can come up here to Profile and Preferences, Notifications, and depending upon their roles that they have, they can turn on and off the emails that they get about certain things. Now, that's if you can get them to do that. If they pick up the phone and have you do it, you can now go in under Settings, Users, way down here at the bottom. And if I go down here to Joe, I click on Joe and I can go to Joe's preferences and I can go to Joe's notifications and I can check or uncheck the emails that Joe's going to get. So you as an administrator can control their emails for them if they just can't figure out how to get to their profile and preferences. So that's kind of a cool little feature. I think it's cool. Rooms and resources. We've had people go crazy with what we call exclusions. And so we've kind of tried to make that a little bit easier here. If I go down here to we've got a room here as an example, Bellator Gallery right here. So if I click on that, as I'm in here looking at this room, I can actually come over here and see the resources that are included or excluded here. So I can only use Bellator chairs in this room, but I can't use any AV. Okay, it's excluded. So you can see that on each room, what specific inclusions and exclusions you have. You can also see that the opposite way over here on resources. So when you come over here, and luckily I have a Bellator chairs. So if I come in here, I can see, well, who can use Bellator chairs? If you click on that, it's going to show you the rooms it can be used in. So you can kind of go both ways. So kind of exposing inclusions, exclusions a little bit more. Typically, what we had before was this room exclusion here under resources. So you can kind of see it from both sides there. Um, the last cool thing we've got here under rooms, it's not the last cool thing for today, um, but if I come down here to the Student Center uh, and I look at this Bellator Gallery, now our room sign application has the feature of exposing a QR code on our room signs. And if a user walked up to that, used their phone and scanned the QR code, it takes them to a special page, assuming that they want to book that room at that moment on that day, if they have permission, and it creates a request instantly. It's really quick, really easy to do. Well, if you don't have room signs, but you wanted that functionality, the QR code is here on the room. This is unique to each room. So what you're going to do is say create a PDF, and it really just says room name, and here's the QR code. Get your scissors out, cut and paste, and if you put that in front of the room and they scan it, does the same thing as the room signs QR code. So if you wanted people to be able to book, this is a really easy, cool way to do that. So speaking of room signs, for the people that use room signs, a couple little things, probably not worth showing, but I'll just throw them out here. Room signs, we thought you'd only want to see book space on room signs, but somebody had a info only or a wait list kind of status they wanted to put on there. Not sure the exact situation, but you can now configure a room sign to include non-book space statuses. I'd encourage you not to put canceled on there, but you could. And then the other thing you can do, new customer, North Texas. I think they're on the call. They have a relatively large room sign. And so the green bar showing the events actually was taking up a lot of space and they wanted to resize it. So on your signs, the panel that shows the events on the right-hand side, I should really show that to you so you can see what I'm talking about here. So if I go, nope, gotta go to the right spot here, manage devices, conference room one, click to view, copy. Let me go right here and paste. And this is the panel. So you now can control the width of that panel here. So,
I'll
and
just add, I'll just add too, what's really handy if a lot of your event names get kind of long, that expanding that panel will make it so they don't get cut off all the time. Because if it's short and your event names are long, people walking by it won't be able to read, the full name of the event. So
couple things. We're almost at the end here. Couple things. Oh, see, I knew that was going to happen. As soon as I pasted that URL in there, you can't paste the room sign URL. Let me go back in here into the browser window that you're in. I gotta log back in. Go back to settings. All right. Um, Scheduled emails. When you have scheduled emails, there's now an option to include a confirmation. So if you had this, let's just pick one of these event reminders, you can include a confirmation on here. It's just a little checkbox. So any scheduled email, you can include that on. You probably don't want to do that on your post-event survey one. And you can also, there's a new trigger type here. You can send it out X number of days after each booking. We only had before the booking, and now you can do it after the booking. The next thing is for geeks. If there's anybody on here that does any kind of API stuff, this is for you. Everybody else, it's not, you're never going to use it. But when you go into anything in settings, if you go to the history tab, here's the internal ID of this building. The Colton building is ID number 27. Prior to this, you had to run an API call to get the list of IDs for your buildings, your rooms, your resources, and they're never going to change. Donaldson building is always going to be ID number 3. It's never going to change. So you don't necessarily have to run the API call to get that all the time. You can come here and get those. I told you it was geeky. Told you that was really geeky. So the last thing I've got, brand new feature, fresh out of development, security policies. Now this one's you want to think before you turn this on. But if you have a new requester come in, primarily through, say, it doesn't matter how they get there, SSO or non-SSO, you can assign them a policy, a default policy. It's primarily for SSO. But what happens is if you don't process them, you haven't tied that user slash contact to an organization. So who can they book for, right? So there's a new option under the policy that says for that new user, don't require an organization. So as that user, they get a policy, they're a brand new user, and they're all excited to create a new event or request, but they can't because they're not configured properly. If you check this box, it will let them create the request without an organization. The burden now shifts to your event team to change the organization on that event that came in without one. But then from that point, when you change it on that event, it links that organization to that contact. And then from there on out, once they have an organization they're tied to, they have to pick an organization. So it kind of lets them get in, put in their first order, and then after that, they have to start picking the organization. So that's a new feature we put in. And with that, I've exhausted my list, Brian. So
Right on. That was a good list. And you made it just under the wire for time. I mean, impressive timing there. So yeah. So at this point, I'll open it up. Anybody that has any questions that hasn't already put them in the chat, feel free. If you want to unmute yourself, you can ask us anything. We would love to hear your feedback, though. I saw several of you reacting as we went through this. Thank you for the feedback. I'm glad some of those features kind of hit home for you and feel like they're going to be handy in the future. But yeah, we love the feedback just because sometimes, we release it and then we don't know right away, are people using this? Do they like it? Do they hate it? Whatever. So this kind of forum lets us at least get a little bit of feedback from you all that way. But yeah, I hope this was helpful for everybody. Any last questions before we wrap things up?
Hey guys, it's Joseph Vasca from NC Biotech. Hope you're having a great afternoon. Dean, I have a question for you. You mentioned about that you could add an ICS file to a confirmation. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
yeah, it's all automatic. Well, kind of automatic. Let me show you how you configure it. You go to statuses and configure ICS. So we need to know what statuses to include, the status of the bookings to include in the ICS file. So you come in here and say, I want to create I want to include confirmed and tentative in any ICS file. That's it. That's all you need to do is tell me what statuses to include. And then every time you send a confirmation out, and you'll see it here in a second, it gets right here. It's going to be hard to see. There's going to be a flash. Look right here. But when I hit the send button, keep your eyes right here. It automatically adds an ICS file and sends that along with the confirmation. You don't have to do anything. You just have to configure the statuses you want included. Because you're probably not going to want to send an ICS file for canceled or wait list or something like that. So that's how you do it.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, yeah, glad this was helpful for everybody. And please do, if you have any questions about some of these things, like how do I configure this or can you turn this on for me, please do email us, send a ticket into support. However, we'd love to help you implement these things if you haven't already. So if there aren't any more questions, we'll let everybody get on with their day. I hope everybody has a fun holiday weekend coming up here, and we will look forward to seeing you all next month. Keep your eyes peeled for our next topic at the end of September. So everybody, thanks again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.